What's the hardest thing about writing? Well, it's getting started. Maybe you're having a hard time coming up with a story idea, or you're stuck on where to take your story next. If you want a way into a story or a way through, I have 9 story starters to help you. This free PDF is full of story seeds and prompts to get you going. To download your 9 story starters, go to nancypanuccio.com/start. That's Nancy with an I, Panuccio with 2 C's, nancypanuccio.com/start. How do you create characters readers truly care about so that they can't help but keep reading your story? In today's episode of Writer Unleashed, we'll explore 5 common character mistakes and how you can turn them around to create characters readers can't resist. Stay tuned. Writer Unleashed is for you, a writer who has a story you want to bring onto the page and into the hearts and minds of readers. I'm Nancy Panuccio, writer, editor, and writing coach. And each week, we'll explore techniques, mindsets, and inspiration for writing stories readers can't put down. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let's begin. One of the hardest things about writing is creating characters readers care about. Now, sometimes we dislike a character because they have no redeeming qualities. And then there are characters we have a neutral reaction to. We don't dislike them, but we don't like them either. We don't have a reaction either way. So what happens is the characters just aren't original, or the writer is trying too hard to make them original. So their originality is just on the surface of the story. It's manufactured and it's way over the top. Now, I once had a client whose novel took place on another planet, a fictional planet, and it was populated by characters with names that were so exotic and long. It was like really a foreign language, and I had a hard time distinguishing one character from another. I couldn't keep track of who these characters were or what their role was in the story. They were too original in the sense that I couldn't relate to them in any human way. So I had to work really hard to stay focused on the story. And then his main 3 characters were stereotypes. We had the playboy, the millionaire, and the stripper. Now, there were a lot of reasons I didn't care about these characters, which I'll get to in a second. But I want to say that this was an exceptional student because after working with him through a few revisions, he really turned these characters around so that I grew to care about them as human beings, not just props to satisfy his plot. So the trick is to create characters that feel like real, complex human beings, multi-dimensional human beings that the reader can relate to. Because what a reader wants from you when they read your story is, show me me. So even if the reader can't relate to your character's particular situation, like being on another planet, they can relate to them on a human level. Readers don't care as much about what happens in your story as they care about who it all happens to. So here are 5 common character mistakes I see writers make and how to avoid them to create characters readers care about. Mistake number 1, stock characters. The playboy who's a hunk and wants to have sex with every attractive female he encounters. The stripper with a heart of gold who comes from a poor town. The billionaire who wants more fame and fortune. Now, there's nothing surprising about these characters. They behave just as we would expect, and this makes them dismissible to your reader. To avoid the stock character, go against type. Surprise us. Walter White from Breaking Bad is a great example. He's a mild-mannered science teacher whose side gig is at a car wash. Now, this is not the guy you'd expect to be running a meth lab. Tony Soprano is your typical New Jersey gangster, but the writers go against type in some surprising ways. He's in therapy for panic attacks, which are so acute, he loses consciousness. He's a cold-blooded killer, but he has a soft spot for animals. He's outraged over a horse being intentionally killed in a fire, but he's not outraged over the killing of people that he knows, or even the killing of his nephew or the killing of his cousin. So his outrage is off balance. So there's some surprising contradictions. To avoid the stock character, try to explore those contradictions that every human has. Have that character do the thing we would least expect a character like that to do. For example, a science teacher who sells meth, a wealthy stay-at-home wife who shoplifts. Go against the grain. Mistake number 2, there's no clear protagonist. If there's no clear protagonist, we don't have someone to root for, or we're expected to root for multiple characters. We don't know where to turn our gaze. Now, this often happens because there are too many characters and there are too many extraneous characters, or there are too many points of view. And this is a big mistake, especially for beginning writers. Creating one character is hard enough, and there are so many techniques to master in order to create a character readers care about, that they feel invested in and want to stay with for an entire story. So choose one main character. Who has the most compelling perspective? Who has the most at stake? Now, once you get clear on who your main protagonist is, what they want to achieve by the end of your story, then all your story's decisions become much easier, because every character has to have some role in either thwarting your main character from getting what he wants or helping him get it. Any character who doesn't have some role in your character's journey or doesn't impact the story in some significant way is superfluous. So ask yourself, are there any characters who play the same role? Or are there characters who have the same traits? Make a composite of those characters to create one character. Are there characters who have no clear impact on your story? Omit them. You can put them away in a separate file, and if your story doesn't hold up without that character, you can always put him or her back in, but you want to make more use of those characters. Mistake number 3. The character's desire is one-dimensional. The playboy wants to have sex with multiple women. His girlfriend wants him to commit. The millionaire wants to be even richer. Now, it's good to know the thing, the person, or the outcome your character wants, the concrete desire, but that's not enough. You need to go deeper. Why does your character want what she or he wants? Why does Walter White want to run his own meth lab? Why does he want to risk going to jail? Well, he's been diagnosed with lung cancer and he's been handed an expiration date, and he wants enough money to not only finance his treatment, but provide financially for his wife and son when he's gone. And teaching science and working at the car wash on the side isn't going to get him what he wants. So why might the playboy want to cheat on his girlfriend? What is he really after beyond sex? What is he not getting from his girlfriend that causes him to want to stray? Go back to last week's episode 37, where I give you a breakdown of different levels of desire. You need to understand what makes your character tick so that you can infuse all of that complexity into your story. Mistake number 4. The main character has nothing at stake. Your main character comes into the story already wanting something. So your story starts out with this implicit question for the reader. Will the character get what he or she wants or not? By the end of the story, the answer will either be a yes or a no. Now, we hear a lot about story conflict, but rather than ask, what's the conflict? The better question to ask is, what hangs in the balance? What does your character stand to lose if he gets what he wants? If he doesn't get what he wants, what might he gain that he didn't expect? Getting what we want is never that clean. Anna Karenina wants to divorce her husband to be with Vronsky. Now, Anna eventually divorces her husband and gets to be with Vronsky. So at the end, she finally gets what she wants. But the reality of life with Vronsky isn't all that great. Now, she's already lost a lot. She's lost favor in Russian society. She's been shunned from that society. She's lost custody of her son. So ultimately, she throws herself under a train and dies. Your character, as she pursues her goal, has to make choices along the way. And all those choices have consequences. So raise the stakes. Mistake number 5. The character is static. They don't change, or their change comes fully on at the end. There's a sudden blast of insight, or there's an epiphany, but it isn't earned because we haven't seen the subtle shifts in character that have led to that final realization, that transformation. Readers want interesting change over time. So let's go back to Walter White. As the series progresses, Walter White becomes more and more of a badass. He's put into situations that have him butting up against some of the scariest, most dangerous drug lords, and he outsmarts all of them. And by the end of the series, his original impetus to manufacture and sell meth has changed. At this point, his family has fallen apart. His marriage is over, so he's no longer doing it for his family. In fact, he's made enough money to take care of them. He's doing it for himself because he's good at it and it makes him feel alive. And he says this to his wife towards the end of the series. Now, we've seen this gradually happen over time, so it doesn't come out of the blue. So, interesting change over time. So let's recap. To create characters readers care about, characters they can't resist, number 1, go against type. Explore contradictions. Number 2, choose one protagonist, one main character viewpoint. Number 3, explore your character's desire beyond the concrete thing. Explore what's underneath. For more, listen to episode 37, 3 questions to ask before you plot your story. Number 4, raise the stakes. Let your character make hard, impossible choices. Give them something to lose. And number 5, interesting change over time. Your story, your character is a living, evolving thing. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Writer Unleashed. I hope these 5 tips help you create characters that readers care about. While you're here for deeper character development, grab my free character questionnaire available at nancypanuccio.com/free resources. And if you want to connect with more like-minded writers and with me, join us on our free Facebook group, Writer Unleashed Community. I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Till then, keep writing, and I'll talk to you soon.